United Heavy, runway 26, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, runway 26, heavy, but United Heavy.
Welcome to the Aeropedia Podcast. I'm Ashwin.
And I'm Peter. Today's topic is airline business models. We're joined by Koen Karsbergen. Koen is a visionary leader in airline business management, bringing over 2 decades of expertise to his dual role as co-founder and principal at Air 52 Aviation Consultants, and as an educator in airline management. Koen has navigated complex skies of the airline industry with roles at KLM Excel Aviation Group, Fly Babu, and IATA. With an international baccalaureate from London and Masters of Science in Aerospace Engineering from Delft University, Koen specializes in airline management and operations. Koen's commitment to advancing industry is evident in his pivotal role in developing and teaching IATA training courses, including the innovative Airline Business Models and Competitive Strategies course and its associated business simulator. So Ashwin, do you know what country code 52 is from Koen's business, Air 52?
52. Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's ask Koen. Koen, thanks for joining the Aeropedia podcast. It's so great to have you here. For our listeners and for us as well, could you walk us through how did you get into aviation and how has your professional journey evolved ever since?
Well, Ashwin and Peter, first of all, thank you very much for having me on the podcast. It's a real pleasure to be here. And I guess how I started my career in aviation was like so many of us. When I was young, when you ask a 4 or 5 year old kid, what do you want to become? It's always a doctor, a firefighter, or a pilot. So guess which one I picked? It was the pilot one. And normally this is a phase that you grow over, and when you get into your teens, you start to think about other possibilities in life. And for me, I just became more and more focused on one thing, and it was I was going to be a pilot, and already figured out which airline, what was going to be my first flight, what was going to be the flight number, the destination, everything was set. I just had to kind of make it to become a pilot. And unfortunately, the entry test for the pilot school didn't go as well as I had planned. And of course, I can have a long discussion here about why I thought it was unfair and they should have given me a second chance and those kind of things. But that really messed up my life. So I needed to come up with another idea. And since I was pretty good at math and physics, I said, hey, why not become an aeronautical engineer? That has something to do with aviation. But pretty soon in the course, which I started in Delft, Delft University of Technology, back in the Netherlands, where I'm originally from, I pretty soon found out that it's pretty technical and it's pretty tough. And I actually have 2 left hands. So I pretty soon decided that my way of going into aviation was not being an engineer, designing planes, fixing planes, but was actually to work on the commercial side. So I started off telling my friends and family, please make sure never to touch it or sit on an aircraft that I designed or maintained. But yes, I will help you find the best fares and the best routing and those kind of things. So actually what happened, I rolled into my internship with KLM Excel, the then regional partner of KLM, the Dutch national carrier. Where I was basically told, hey, Koen, help us with network planning because we don't have a lot of experience with that. And you're a bright guy from university, so tell us. And this is really how I ended up in university, in aviation. Started off with KLM Excel, that became part of a larger group with the Excel Aviation Group. We started up operations in different parts of Europe. The Caribbean, we started long haul, we started charters. And then the shareholders found out the hard way that expanding a business in aviation costs a lot of money, and they simply didn't have that kind of cash in their back pocket. So like so many of us in the industry, I went through the bankruptcy process, which is an experience on its own, and then moved on to Switzerland, joined Fly Babu, another regional airline, before moving a couple of doors down to IATA, the Trade Association of Airlines, where I worked a couple of years before I call it landing in my midlife crisis. So I decided to pack up my bags, sell my things, and move into Costa Rica because the weather is much nicer there. I continued to work for IATA as an independent instructor, and also started my own consultancy business, Air 52, which I've been doing for the past almost 15 years. In the meantime, I switched from Costa Rica to Mexico because, hey, you need a change of scenery once in a while. So this is a little bit my background in aviation, still enjoying it every day, helping people, helping businesses, airlines, but also manufacturers, but also governments, making more sense of airline economics.
Could you give us a bit of insight into how you came up with Air 52?
Well, Air 52, you need to have a name that is a little bit catchy, and it is something different. And so yeah, well, it starts with air, and then it starts with 52, and 52 is the country code for Mexico, because I already had envisioned I want to stay in this region, and what is a very important aviation market? It is Mexico. So let's go for 52, and hence Air 52. It was born.
Wow, very cool. And it's awesome to see how through some of the core expertise that you built, you then became an expert at airline business models in general, right? And we all know that the network and the fleet and the schedule are very, very core components to business models along with other things. So could you just give us an overview of what is an airline business model? What are the different types of business model? How can an airline kind of sit in one category versus the other?
Yeah, well, I'm now putting on my professor hat and sound a bit boring. But if you want to have a true definition, a business model really is the method or means by which a business or an organization, and we're talking about airlines, so by which an airline derives profit from its business. And I think this is core to the economics of any business, but especially for airlines. We are not in the business of getting the most awards, of having the best business class, or having the most destinations, or the youngest fleet. No, we're in the business of making money. And sometimes in all the things that we're doing, we sometimes forget that. And really the idea of a business model is really to focus on the core objective of an airline, which is making money. How boring as it sounds.
And as you're trying to figure out your business model as an airline, what are the core components that you're trying to put in place?
If we look at the business models, there are basically four main components. And number one is your customer segment. Who is going to be your customer? Understanding your customer, understanding what your customer needs, understanding what your customer wants, because that's two very big things. Different and much different, and also understanding what your customer is willing to pay for. And choosing the right customer is the top priority of any business, but airlines in particular. And there we need to be picky. It's very good that we say, guys, this market segments is simply not for me. There's no way I can make money out of that. And I will just focus on a particular market segments or these particular market segments. That's perfectly fine. The second thing is, once I've identified my customer, is the value proposition. What do we actually offer that passenger? And if we look at the core, and again, I'm going to make some aviation people very unhappy. An airline is basically the same as a train company, as an Uber, as a bus company. We transport people and goods from A to B. And preferably if it's passengers with their bag at the same time, and maybe baby bag, but that's what we do. And all the rest that we do is extra, is show. It's great, it helps us to make money, but that is our core proposition. So what can we do in addition to this transportation that we offer? And then the third part of it is how we actually work together with suppliers, with partners, to actually offer that product. How do we work with other airlines so we have connecting flights? How do we work with airports so that the ground experience matches our in-flight experience? How do we work with car rental companies, with tour operators, basically with everybody? And there the sky is the limit, just to stick to aviation in the terms of partnerships. Now, and why is it so important to look at the value proposition and how we're going to offer that is because in the core, as I said, that we offer is transportation. And especially if we look at economy class, I mean, there's not going to be a lot of difference between one airline or the other. So how can I entice a passenger or a shipper to travel with me rather than with the competition. And that is the fourth element, which is the competitive advantage. What makes me so special, my airline so special, that you want to fly with me and not with the other? And preferably why you're even willing to pay a premium to fly with me rather than to fly with the competition. And that is really the four main elements of a business model. Now, if you want to go into it more nitty-gritty and more detailed, there's something that's called the business model canvas. And now I put my professor hat on again. This is really a more extended view of the business models, where we look, in addition to customer segment, the value proposition, the value chain, and the competitive advantage, at more details such as customer relationships. How do we want to deal with the customer? Which channels do we want to use to actually reach and communicate with my customers? What are my key resources? What are my activities? What are the cost and revenue streams? So really, I'm gonna kind of dress it a little up and make it a bit more complete. So if you want to talk about the business model, and if you want to have the full picture, that is what you want to look at. But for me, I think for most of us, if we're looking just at our main components, we're doing pretty well and very fine.
Thank you for that overview. That's very insightful. When airlines are selecting what business model to use, there are some categories, right, that the aviation industry uses that we hear terms of. Could you maybe share with the listeners what those the more popular categories of business model the airlines choose?
Yeah. So basically we have a couple of categories, and if we look at the most common business models in aviation, you will find a lot of the terms that we all know very well. We have the low cost carriers, we have the ultra low cost carriers. Then we have a group of carriers that we call the network carriers, which are also known as the flag carriers, the full service carriers, the majors. The reason I prefer network carrier above all the others is that we really focus with network carriers on one particular aspect, which is what we call the hub and spoke system. And the hub and spoke system is that we try to get people flying in from all places into a central airport, which we call a hub, where they can connect onto the other flights. And so all the big airlines, the traditional airlines that we know, the Uniteds, the Deltas, the Air Frances, the Singapore Airlines, the Qantas, the Emirates, all use that model. And we're basically getting people from A to B, not necessarily on a direct flight, but via my hub in C. And that's why we prefer the term network carriers. So in addition to those three categories, which cover the vast majority of the airlines, we also have what we call the cargo airlines, which, surprise, surprise, focus primarily on cargo. Then we have what we call the integrators. The integrators are the DHLs, the UPSs, the FedExes of this world, who not only offer the transportation from airport to airport, but what we call the first and last mile. So they actually pick up the package from the shipper, they then bring it to the airport, then they fly it to the final destination airport, and then deliver it to your home. Then we have a couple of other categories which are less well known and not so common. We have the charter airlines, which traditionally focus on those package holidays that we offer, where the customer is not so much the final consumer, the passenger, but the tour operator. And then we got the regionals. Now, the regionals is a bit of a difficult one because here we have something that happens a lot in aviation. We have one term and we have two meanings. So in the traditional view of the regional airline, it is an airline which connects the region. So this is mainly secondary, tertiary cities, the smaller cities, connecting them directly, and also into the major cities. So this is traditionally a regional. So when you talk to people about a regional airline, this is what most people will understand, except in the US. Because in the US, what the regional is what the rest of the world to us calls an ACMI or a capacity provider. Now, ACMI, where does ACMI stand for? Aircraft Crew Maintenance Insurance. So basically an ACMI or a capacity carrier is an airline that provides flights, capacity for other airlines. So, for example, if we look at the example of the US, if you sit in a flight operated by under the American Eagle brand or Delta Connect or United Express, you're actually not sitting in a plane of Delta, United, or America. No, you're actually sitting on the board of another airline, such as, for example, SkyWest. And basically what they do is they fly on behalf of those major airlines. So their customer, again, is not the final passenger, it is the airline. And they, in the end, do not care if there's one passenger on board or if there are full flights, because they get paid anyway. Why? Because it's the airlines, the Deltas, Americans, and Uniteds that pay them to actually fly. And this is something very different when we look at the low cost, the ultra low cost, and the network carriers, who really have the final consumer, the passenger, as their ultimate customer.
Yeah, makes sense. And thanks for that overview as well. So could an airline technically be part of multiple subcategories here as well and form some sort of a hybrid business model?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is very common, actually. And this has to do, coming back to what we said about the business model, the number one thing in our business model is the customer segment. Who is our customer? And different customers have different requirements. If we look at look at yourself, if you're traveling for business, you're probably looking for comfort. You're looking for a premium class of service. You're looking at a good schedule, loyalty program that is really, really important, especially when the boss is paying, because then you don't care about price. Now, when you go on holiday, you probably focus more on price. And this is traditionally where the low cost and the ultra low cost carriers have been focused on capturing the most price sensitive passengers. Whereas the network carriers have been focused more on serving everything and everybody. Now, the reason that the low-cost carriers and the ultra-low-cost carriers are able to offer you those low prices is because they keep the cost down. And there's various ways of doing it, which includes squeezing as many people as you can in the aircraft, making sure you fly them as often as you can, doing quick turnaround, all those kind of things that really maximize the utilization of the resources, which lowers the unit cost. This is something that network carriers cannot do, simply because they have different types of customers with different requirements, different demands. If you want to connect flights, you need to schedule them in such a way that there's what we call waves or banks, where we have incoming and departing flights. So by virtue of that, you need to have a lower utilization of your aircraft, so your cost is going to be higher. So what a lot of airlines have done, they have created separate airlines or separate brands within their group to cater to different types of customers. So if we look, for example, to an airline like Singapore Airlines, well known for its premium product, it actually also has a little sister, and which is called Sööt, which is a low-cost carrier. So in this particular case, there's two different brands, two different airlines. They're completely separate. They're separate organizations, but within the same holding company, offering a different product to different type of customers. Now, you can do it either with two different brands, or you can do it with multiple brands, multiple sub-brands. If we look, for example, to Canada, to Air Canada, we have Air Canada, which is the network carrier, which has a premium product, which connects, which offers connectivity. We have Air Canada Express, which is their regional arm, providing regional connectivity. Then we have Air Canada Rouge, which is offering low cost. And then we have Air Canada Cargo, surprise, surprise, offering cargo services. So actually what they've done within the brand, they've created different airlines, different divisions, which cater with a different product and a different business model to a different type of customer. And that is indeed what we call the hybrid business model.
Yeah, and they also have Air Canada vacations now that cater specifically to the vacation going folks, right? So
Yeah, so they've actually moved above and beyond what they actually do. Air Canada Vacations, effectively a tour operator, which uses Air Canada Rouge to provide the flights, and then they have contracts with hotels to offer you this package holiday that you're looking for when you're sick and tired of the cold winter in Canada.
Yeah.
I remember in the 90s, there was a very innovative hybrid model I know UPS tried, where their airplanes weren't flying on the weekends. So they actually palletized seats and sold some vacation travel to passengers there. I thought that was interesting.
Absolutely, and there's been a lot of testing and trying of different business models, of different hybrid models, and how can we try to indeed maximize the revenue. Again, coming back to my first point is really the reason that airlines exist is to make money. So if you have an aircraft standing idle doing nothing, hey, why can't we try doing something with that aircraft and do something different? If I don't have packages, hey, let's try and see if I can move some passengers. It didn't turn out to be very successful for UPS. And this is sometimes how it goes. Models work, models don't work. The same is, for example, if we look at the long haul premium airlines, there was this low cost long haul business airline. If we look at the likes like Silverjet that offered all business class flights, but low cost. That didn't work. Nice try. Idea was very great, but sometimes we learn that things don't work out, and then we just have to change.
You mentioned a couple times low cost and ultra low cost. Could you explain what's the difference? Is there a definitional difference between an ultra low cost and a low cost, and what does that look like?
There is a difference because otherwise we wouldn't have two. Well, on the other hand, we're in aviation, so why not have two names for the same thing? Now, all jokes beside, the reason why we have low cost and ultra low cost really also has to do with the way that business models have evolved over the years. If we take the time capsule and we position ourselves back 10, 15 years, really the start of the emergence of low cost. I'm not talking about the real beginning, which was Southwest. But if we look at really the emergence, what was happened is what we have basically had the dominance of what we call now the network carriers. And they were very dominant. They had a relatively high cost structure, therefore relatively high prices, which meant there was a large amount of passengers potential passengers out there that couldn't afford to fly, or could afford to fly only once and not twice or three times or four times a year. So there were a couple of entrepreneurs that really saw the basically opportunity there, and they said, well, if the pricing of the network carriers are here, why don't we come in and actually we focus on getting the lowest possible cost in the market, and we really drive down these prices, and we come down with prices 50, 60, 70% lower than we currently have. And so they were really capturing the most price-sensitive passengers. And as we just discussed, one of the most price-sensitive passengers is the leisure passenger, the one that goes on vacation, that goes on city break. So this was a perfect target. And people loved it. And if you look at it, low cost is something that we can't think of. We can't think about not having low cost. So people really enjoyed it, really loved it. It did very well. We saw an explosion in the growth of terms of companies, in the terms of the coverage of their networks, the number of frequencies that we offered, and we're growing and growing and growing. And then they kind of hit a barrier. It's like, And think about it as yourself. If you were able to go on holiday once, and now because of the low ticket fares, you were able to go twice. Yes, we will do it. And maybe if we can go 3 times, we're still very happy. Now, if we could afford it to go 4 times, it's already becoming, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times. How about, do you want to travel every weekend? And I think the vast majority of our people will say, well, that's a bit on the high side. And maybe every other week, but not every week. So even if everybody wanted to travel every week, there's only 52 weekends. I mean, we still have to work somehow. We need to pay for, even though it's cheap, we need to pay for something. So even if we wanted to fly 52 weekends, and we could, it's only 104 flights that we can take. So those low-cost airlines basically hit a barrier. The price-sensitive leisure passenger, there wasn't anyone else to find. So what they had to do is they either said, okay, this is it, or we need to look and revisit our business model and say, hey, are there other customer segments that might be interested in flying with me? Now, and due to the fact that they've grown so much, one of the things that they'll only also be doing is increasing frequency, because one of the key cornerstone elements of a low-cost carrier, ultra low-cost carrier, is having one single aircraft type in order to, again, create an economy of scale, reduce cost. So if you have more passengers, you can't, like the network carriers, put on a bigger plane. Hey, we have a 737 that's and there's still people lining up to buy tickets. Let's put in a 78. No, that's not possible. So the only thing they could do is add frequencies. Now, when you start adding frequencies, you're creating a schedule which become interesting for a different market segment, which is the business market segment. And why do business travelers like frequency? Well, if I have a meeting and it's only taking me 2 hours, I want to fly there, I want to have the meeting, and I want to fly back because I want to have a productive day. Or if I schedule a whole day and my meeting gets cut short, I can go home early. So this was really important. But business travelers also want other things. They also want creature comfort. They want to have priority boarding. They don't want to stand in line to check in. They want to sit in the front of the aircraft to go in and out quickly. So, and also they want to fly to the major airports. I don't want to be stuck in the middle of nowhere and then have to take a taxi for an hour to actually get to my final destination, to my meeting. No, I want to fly to the major airport, take a taxi, get to my destination in 15 minutes. That's it. So the things that the low-cost carriers had to do is basically adapt their product. So you see more and more of the low-cost carriers focus on frequency, focusing on providing customer comfort, creature. We see low-cost carriers offering business classes or large seats or things like that, all coming at a cost. We also saw them moving into major airports, which means higher airport fees, but also more congestion, therefore less utilization of the aircraft, lower fees. So if we looked at the cost structure, we had the network carriers, we had the low-cost carriers, and in order for the low-cost carriers to really start catering to the business traveler, they started moving closer and closer to the network carrier. They still have a very good cost advantage, but they're not that great as it was before. So what happens now? We see that this low-cost carrier is moving up in the cost. We have a new gap, which is now an opportunity for a new type of airline. And since we're not very good at coming up with very innovative names in aviation, we called it an ultra low-cost carrier because it's the ultra version of the low-cost carrier. And this is the main difference between the ultra low-cost carrier and the low-cost carrier. If we look at it, you'll see that the ultra low-cost carrier is primarily focused on the ultra price-sensitive passenger, meaning the leisure passenger, going therefore mostly to leisure destinations, whereas the low-cost carrier is doing that as well, but in addition to that is also catering to my business traveler with more creature comforts, also going to different destinations. So this is really the main difference between the low-cost and ultra low-cost. And to be quite honest, it's sometimes a bit of an academic discussion, and we can have certain airlines to decide where the two fits, and we also see that the low cost and network carriers are merging closer and closer. I mean, if we look at the likes of JetBlue, now also offering transatlantic services, code sharing, all the things that traditionally all the network carriers did. They had the alliance with American Airlines, which got shut down by the government. But all those kind of things, is JetBlue still a low cost carrier? And we can have a debate. Now, the reason that we still want to use those classifications is that we really want to have an understanding of what the core values of those companies is. We need it for ourselves as airline to really set a course, to really start working on a strategy, and to stay focused, because that's one of the things that we learned in aviation. Staying focused and staying close to your customer and to what you do best is actually the best recipe for success.
So out of all of these business models, is there one that you think is more successful than the other, or is there a proven most successful business model out there?
I think this is the billion dollar question, and this is one of the questions that relates to Richard Branson's idea about how to make money in aviation. And you start as a billionaire, and then you start an airline, you become a millionaire. So that's how you become a millionaire in aviation. The short answer to your question is no. There are very successful low-cost carriers. There are very successful ultra-low-cost carriers. There are very successful network carriers, ACMI carriers. But there are plenty of examples of all those airlines in all the different business models that didn't make it. So the key is not to pick a business model and that will bring you to success. No, it is to really do your homework, do your market research, know what your customer needs, know what your customer wants, and then find a way to make a product and service that matches those needs and wishes, and in such a way that you actually can make money. And life is so simple. That's the only thing you need to do.
So I just wanted to clarify that, we hear about business models a lot, but then we also hear about strategy a lot, right? So could you explain how are these two distinguished, and what is a business model versus a strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, let me put on my professor hat. Going back to the definition, what is the strategy? And the strategy is basically how I call it a very well-defined roadmap towards the future of the airline. So I think the big difference between the airline business model basically gives the basics. It gives us a good first understanding of where we want to be and what we want to do, some of the key characteristics of our airline. And then we need to start filling in the blanks. And this is what we do in the strategy. And this is really where we are going to expand into more details and make sure that we not only have a business model in mind, but we also turned it into something feasible. It's one thing to say, I'm going to be a low-cost carrier, but how do you put that in practice? Where are you going to be based? What type of aircraft are you going to be operating? Are you going to be focusing on connecting or point-to-point passengers? All those things are things that you need to think about. And this is what the strategy does. It basically translates the business model into reality, into a real airline.
Oh, very interesting. And so with Air 52 and some of the other work that you're doing, how do you interact with airlines? How do you help them? What's your role? And just walk us through, what are you doing that's impacting the airline?
Yeah, I think with Air 52 and with that, a lot of the other consultants, of course, are doing is basically trying to help the airline think out of the box. What we see that a lot of airline executives work day to day on daily problems based on their previous experience, based on what the companies has done before, is doing. We're looking left and right. We're seeing what other airlines are doing, and we're trying to pick and choose and maybe copy paste. But sometimes you just need to take a step back and ask yourself difficult questions. Ask yourself, why are we doing this? Is this adding value? Is this what my customer wants? Can I do things differently to provide a competitive advantage, to make a product, a service which is more appealing to my customer, for which the customer is willing to pay more? And I think this is the key that we do with Air 52, especially in the area of business models and strategies, network, fleet and schedule planning. Is really help you take that step back and really say, okay, why am I doing that? And that sometimes is sometimes very painful, because you have to ask sometimes like a little kid. Ask question, and why do we do this? And why do we do this? And why don't we do that? But this really is to start the flow of thinking going, and really try to come up with different alternatives, try to think out of the box and come up with something that is innovative. And I think that is something that the industry really needs: innovation. And true innovation, not copy paste what others are doing, but finding a true innovative way of doing things differently. looking based on your customer. And unfortunately, there is no cookie cutter template. It's not like a business model is a checklist like we have in the cockpit. And it's like, okay, we have done this, and now we do this, and now we do that, and now we that, and now we're a successful airline. No, it doesn't work like this. If only it did. Well, it better shouldn't, because then I don't have any work anymore. But that is the key thing that you need to do as a consultant. And that's what we do at Air 52, trying to work with the clients, with the airlines, but also with airports, with manufacturers, to try to understand the customer. And I think that puts us in a unique position, understanding the commercial decision-making processes in the airline. That can help a lot in terms of manufacturers, but also other suppliers, to understand what is important to airlines, but also airports, also to the tourism boards, for example, to try to expand the number of flights going into an airport. That is really, really important. Why? Because aviation contributes not only indirect, but also indirect to a lot of economic development, and especially when it comes to tourism.
Yeah, that's a great point. I want to also touch on some of the teaching that you do with the IATA Training and Development Institute, right? So what are you teaching there? What kind of other courses are offered there? And should folks look to take those courses if they want to learn more about business models and get into kind of simulation of routes and networks and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So with Air 52, what we do, which is kind of puts us in a unique position, in addition to doing consulting, what we really strongly believe in is that it's important not just to be there, the consultant, and tell people and tell airlines how to do things better, but also do capacity building. And that they, in a way, it kind of kills my own business, but that airlines also improve. And the only way you improve yourself is that you indeed give your employees more skills, more knowledge. And this is where training all comes from. And this is something that we do with Air 52. And in addition to the consulting, we integrated with specific trainings for staff looking at different areas. Now, in addition to that, also work as an instructor for IATA. IATA has a wide variety of courses. And one of their flagship courses is Airline Business Models and Competitive Strategies. It's a course that takes 5 days. It is offered either virtually or in person. We have different deliveries throughout the year, different locations throughout the world, also being offered in company, if you have enough people. And really what we do there is indeed exploring. We go deeper into what is a business model, what is a strategy, and how do I translate that business model, that strategy, into a strategy for my network? How do I pick the routes? How do I choose my fleet? How do I actually produce a schedule? What do I do with pricing? And for that, we actually use a simulation, an airline business simulation tool, which is called Air Mercury, which I helped to develop, writing basically the economic model behind it. And basically the idea behind the simulator is that we have different teams, different airlines trying to compete with each other and trying to be profitable. Really trying to put in practice what they've learned, what people have learned in the course. Now, the great thing about the simulation is that you actually can do things that you couldn't be doing in real life. Even though, for example, Ryanair used to be a premium regional airline until they figured out that wasn't the way to go, and they actually moved over to a low-cost model, and they've become very successful. Now, this is something in real life. If you are working at an airline, you can't do that from day one to day two. Now, this is something that clearly you can do in a simulation. Also, changes in fleet, changes in configuration, all those kind of things you can apply in a simulation. And also the good thing is, when you lose money, it's just virtual money. So you don't have to justify it to your boss, or you have to be worried about being fired. No, you can trust and try different things based on what you learned, and you can use that to really try to understand and grasp how everything is interconnected. Because I think that is also one of the key things that we need to realize, and that's why it's important to talk about business models and then strategies and then from the top go down, that everything is interlinked. So a decision that one person takes is going to be impacting a lot of other departments and people. And as I always say, there's no single person or department that can make an airline, but every single person can break an airline. And so this is why it's really important to do that, and therefore it's also really important when you say, well, maybe I'm in operations, or I'm a pilot, or I work in maintenance, or I work in pricing. So why should I really care about the business model? I'm not directly involved. Yes, you are directly involved, because you're an integral part of making sure that the airline makes money. And the more you understand how the airline makes money and how we can work together within an airline, the more likely it is that the airline is going to be successful. So in addition to basically stilling your hunger and curiosity to learn more about aviation and how it really works, it actually is going to help you in your day-to-day job. And this is also why when I teach those courses, I do get people from various different departments, but also indeed, again, from regulators, from OEMs, from airports, really trying to understand how airlines work.
Yeah, very cool. And I can say firsthand that Air Mercury software, I've tried it and it's the most fun I've ever had. Like, I couldn't figure out why I was losing money, and I just kept trying different things, and I literally took it home, like, because I just kept thinking about what can I do different and better, and what routes can it's just so much fun, right? When you start to really dive into an airline's workings, there's just so many levers you have to push and pull, and yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun
because you're putting routes between Kamloops and Penticton. No one wants to fly that short.
No one wants to fly there. Yeah.
No, that's true. That's true. Oh, maybe they don't know that they want to fly there yet. Then maybe we can stimulate the market a bit. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Koen, we can talk for hours about this stuff. And Peter and I are so passionate about airlines and business models and stuff. But I think we'll stop there and transition into our next rapid fire round, where we try to get to know you and some of the skill sets a bit better. So can you name one hard skill and one soft skill that you feel is required to succeed in a role like yours?
I think the number one hard skill is analytics. In any decision that you need to take, you need to have backup, and you need to justify your decisions. I mean, we could do this. We could just do an educated or non-educated guess, but that's not going to work. So in order to make our decisions, we work with tons of data, tons of information. We need to ensure that we have the right data, that we have the data rightly calibrated, that we have accurate data. And then this is just what we have for the past. And then we start working on forecasting. So being able to process a lot of data, understanding what is important, what isn't important, how deep and how detailed do I need to go into my analysis. This is a key hard skill that you need to have if you want to work in anything that has to do with strategy or network fleet and schedule planning. That is the key hard skill.
And the soft skill?
The soft skill, love for coffee or tea. I don't discriminate. The reason I'm saying love for coffee or tea is as I mentioned before, aviation is all about teamwork. And especially when it comes to strategy, when you want to do a good strategy, you need to understand what drives the different departments. What are cost drivers? What are revenue drivers? So the most time that I spent working in airlines was actually having coffee with other people, with other departments, to try to understand what they were doing and why they were doing what they were doing, and how we could work together to maximize the profit of the airline. And this is really key. So I always say the love of coffee, but obviously it is the teamwork, the spirit, the openness, the willingness to listen, to ask questions. I think that really is a key soft skill that you need in this line of work.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, tell us your fondest aviation memory, or you can also talk about your favorite flight leg experience, right? One or the other.
Well, let me do the two then. Why not? Fondest memory of aviation is going back to my youth, when going with my grandparents, taking me to the airport to look at planes. And I know all of us talk about the 747 as being the queen of the skies. I'm very sorry, I'm a little bit different. For me, it's the MD-11 or the DC-10 before. That really was an aircraft that really made my aviation blood boiling. It was really wow, and it was always great to go to Amsterdam Airport, to Schiphol, and see those aircraft taking off and landing, and that made me completely happy. And then of course the ice cream afterwards, that was helping a lot as well. And then I think my fondest memory, or my best leg was actually just before I went to university. I graduated high school, and I went to visit a high school friend in Japan, where he showed me around. And on my way back on Virgin Atlantic 340 Tokyo to London, I was talking to the cabin crew, who saw I took all kinds of material with me because I was trying to get prepared for university, and we chatted a bit. And so I told her, well, I wanted to be a pilot. It didn't work out, but now I'm going to study aerospace engineering. So I'm so interested, fun. And 10 minutes later, she comes back and says, do you want to have a look at the cockpit? I said, yes, sure. This was the good old days when we were still allowed to go in the cockpit. Gee, I feel old now. So I was there. I went in there. That was about halfway the 14-hour flight, and the crew, very friendly. We were chatting. They were explaining me what is this, what is that, how does this work, how that works. And before it knew it, they were actually doing the 10-minute call to announce that they were going to be landing. And I was still in the jump seat, and I was, guys, I'm still here. And I said, yeah, you want to stick around for landing? And I was like, yes, please. Can I just go back and put my back and stuff together, and then I'll be back. So I actually got to experience my first landing in a cockpit, and actually they did a test landing for ILS Cat 3, so that was completely automated. So the pilots were like, "Look, Mom, without hands." So that was amazing. I mean, this is the flight leg that stood out most. And I skipped most of the in-flight entertainment and the catering and those kind of things, but the cockpit experience, of course, was something that was unique.
Yeah, I'm sure the cockpit is far more superior than in-flight entertainment at this point. So you said it was a A340, and you landed in Heathrow?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was it.
Nice. Yeah, it's a great experience. Cool.
It is. Yeah. Unfortunately, that it's not happening anymore unless you are a pilot.
Yeah. Okay, and the last question in this category is, what part of aviation do you feel is least understood by the general public, and what can they do to learn more?
I think the least understood part of aviation is actually how safe flying is, and especially now with all the incidents that we had with the MAX aircraft. Everybody is now in the media making a lot of big deals about any aircraft that makes an emergency, or actually, as we should say, precautionary landing, because look, another Boeing had an issue. And I think one thing, maybe I shouldn't say this out loud, but this is happening on a daily basis. And I think this is actually showing how well developed the safety culture is within aviation. That we are not taking any risks, that we are going back to the airport, how inconvenient that may be. And I've personally experienced that an engine failure, and there was somebody complaining, "Hey, we still have 3 engines left. Why don't we continue flying?" No, we're going back. Why? This is safety. This is your life on the line. And you don't forget, you're flying at 30,000 feet, going about 800 miles an hour in a tube that is of aluminium that's a few millimeters thick. Do you really want to do this? No. And I think this is something that a lot of the general public doesn't really understand, how far advanced advanced our safety culture is in aviation, and how much we do and continue to do and work on being the safest mode of transportation. The chances of you dying or getting injured in a car accident, riding your bike, or even walking on the sidewalk is far higher than you flying. So I think this is one of the things there, and I think there as well is podcasts like these, but also the regular media should take a better chance at it, stand at this, and ensuring that we inform the public correctly, that this is actually part of making sure that we are safe to fly.
Yeah, great points. And yeah, we're trying, right? I think from the podcast perspective, that's the objective here, to educate and inspire. And folks like you coming on the podcast really helps, right? Just spread the message further.
We do our best.
Yeah. So the next category is going to be fun. I'll let Peter introduce that category.
All right, Koen, it is your Aeropedia Podcast Trivia Challenge. Every week or every episode, we ask 5 questions of our guest. And if you get them wrong, it's no problem. If you get them right, great. But our goal is to educate the audience and hopefully by the end of the year, name our Aeropedia Trivia Challenge champion. So are you ready for your round?
I hope so. I made the deal that you made it easy, right?
No. I'm sure you're going to do fine. So first question, airplane spotting. Can you identify one of the 2 main distinguishing features between the Saab 340 and Saab 2000 turboprops airplanes?
For sure, one of the differences is number of blades on the turboprop, on the props. I think the Saab 340 has 4, and if I'm not mistaken, the Saab 2000 has 6.
Yes.
And well, the other thing is the Saab 2000 is longer than the 340, but I don't know if that counts.
It does. So you've correctly identified the 2 main distinguishing factors. Yes,
Yay!
The blade count. 4 on the 340 and 6 on the 2000, and then the length. Yes, but much of the rest of the airplane is quite similar visually. Well done. Okay, 1 for 1. Next question. This comes to U.S. geography a little bit, but can you name 3 of the 4 airports with commercial airline service in the San Francisco Bay Area?
Well, that's a more challenging one, and I'll refrain from Googling at the same time. Obviously, we have San Francisco International. That's the one.
Yes.
Isn't it Orange County? That is also one.
I'm sorry. No, that is in the Los Angeles area.
That's LA. I got the wrong one. I think I'll stick with 1. With San Francisco. My geography of San Francisco is not that bad. Not that good. Sorry.
No worries.
Just across the bay, Koen, there's a huge Southwest hub, right? If you can call it a hub. Like there's a lot of Southwest traffic going into the other airport across the bay, if you know what that is.
Is that Oakland, or did I get it wrong as well?
Oakland. Yes.
Okay.
Although they've changed their name,
Oakland.
so your first answer actually kind of killed 2 with 1 stone, because they've changed their name to San Francisco Bay Airport.
Yeah, they did indeed. Yeah, that's
Oakland.
the one.
Yes,
Yeah.
so you got 2.
And then Peter, do you count San Jose in the Bay Area as well?
Yes.
Yeah, so that has passengers. Yeah.
And which one would be number 4?
The 4th is Sonoma County.
Oh,
Sonoma County. Okay.
Yep. Napa serves the Napa area and the wine country there, and it is technically part of the San Francisco Bay Area. So there's your 4 airports with commercial airline service. All right, next question.
I guess geography wasn't in my in my package.
I think you'll get this one. So ICAO is a United Nations agency founded in 1944 to promote the safe and orderly development of civil aviation. Can you identify what the acronym ICAO stands for?
Well, I should be, because they're right across from IATA in Montreal. So it's the International Civil Aviation Organization.
Yes, correct. Well done. All right.
Yay!
Yay.
Almost halfway.
Okay, you don't want to. Some people do want to go here, and some people don't want to go here. But to hell, HEL is the IATA code. Hilo.
Or Helsinki, which is actually a very beautiful city.
It is very good. All right, Helsinki, Vantaa Airport. There it is. Well done. All right, and number 5. Can you name 2 of the 5 airlines on the African continent that are members of a major global airline alliance, whether that be Star Alliance, SkyTeam, or Oneworld? There are 5 African airlines.
Yep, you have one of the airlines is Ethiopian.
Yes.
Which is a Star Alliance member. And then you also have Egypt Air, which is another Star Alliance member.
Yes, very good. Do you want to keep going to try to name all 5?
Let me think. You got, I think, Royal Air Maroc.
Yes.
And then Kenya Airways.
Yes. And there's one more.
And
another Star Alliance member.
Another Star.
Further south, perhaps, in Africa?
South African.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's the one.
You got all 5. Well done. All right. Well, fantastic. Thank you for participating, Koen. You did a great job.
Koen, yeah, you did great. This is amazing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for keeping them easy, except for the San Francisco question. They were actually challenging. So, but it's a lot of fun, definitely.
Yeah. We try to mix it up a bit, and I think, like Peter said, the objective here is just to learn more, right? For everybody. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, at least I learned as well some things, so that's great.
Yeah, cool. Well, Koen, thanks a lot for this. This was so insightful, so educational. I mean, like I said, we could talk about this for so long, and we'll definitely have you over again, and we'll pick one specific subtopic and just go deeper. But it was very, very cool to have you on, and all the best with all the consulting and the IATA training courses.
Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here. A lot of fun as well, and love to come back. And all the best with the podcast. And looking forward to see each other in future again.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us this week. Send us any feedback, trivia ideas, or future topics you may have to our email at aeropedia.podcast@gmail.com. See you on the next leg of our journey.
Bye for now.
Mercury Running Heavy, contact departure 119.2, good night.
119.2, 290 heavy.